a gun aimed straight at Selena Brooks's face. That was the first thing Jordan Brooks saw when he ran outside. The man holding it wasn't a cop. He wasn't even security. He was a 50-year-old HOA officer, belly spilling over his tactical vest, gripping the pistol sideways like he'd learned it from a bad movie. His hands shook, but his eyes were full of ugly confidence. And why? Because Selena, Jordan's wife, had dared to jog past the neighborhood clubhouse without carrying an HOA badge. What this so-called officer didn't realize was that Selena wasn't some helpless target. She was a decorated black woman, a Delta Force operative who had returned from a classified mission just 2 days ago. She hadn't even unpacked her rucksack. And now, fresh from the battlefield, she was facing down a wannabe rent-a-cop with a cheap pistol. Jordan froze for a second, his heart hammering. He knew Selena could disarm this man with nothing more than a stick or even a pine cone if she wanted. She'd done harder things overseas, diffused bombs in thunderstorms, rescued hostages under fire. But this was supposed to be their safe place, their quiet escape from chaos. Selena had only wanted to jog, plant a garden, maybe start a chicken coop. Jordan himself, a cybersecurity nerd who lived for good internet speed, just wanted a basement office to code in peace. Instead, here they were, trapped in a neighborhood run by racist clowns. The signs had been there. The brochures for this community promised sanctuary, family values, and security. But within days, Jordan and Selena saw the truth. 4 black Golfs parked outside the HOA clubhouse, painted to look like mini SWAT vehicles, each with HSD stenciled in white. Home Safety Division. That was their fake police force. Some even had flashing lights zip-tied to the roof. Jordan had laughed at first. He thought maybe they used the carts for parades or Halloween, but the way they patrolled the sidewalks told another story. They took themselves seriously. Too seriously. Especially the HOA president, Margaret Sloan, a white woman with the smug smile of someone who had never been told no. Margaret introduced herself with a laminated badge and 3 clipboards, handing Selena a thick booklet of community rules. And tucked inside those rules was the real truth. This wasn't about community. This was about control. And for a black woman like Selena, the prejudice wasn't just implied. It was obvious. The man jabbed the pistol toward Selena, his lip curling with disgust. "You look suspicious," he barked, spit flying with every word. "Jogging without a badge, trespassing in a restricted zone. People like you don't belong here. Have you ever seen someone treated like a criminal just for taking a jog? What would you do if a fake cop shoved a gun in your face and told you that you don't belong in your own neighborhood?" Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where our viewers are tuning in from. And if you believe no one should ever face a gun just because of the color of their skin while running down their own street, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc, because standing up to bullies starts with telling these stories. Selena didn't flinch. Her dark eyes stayed fixed on him, steady and unshaken. "I live here," she replied, voice calm. "I was running, that's all." The man sneered, shifting the pistol higher. "Don't lie to me. Where's your identification? Show it, or you're in violation. Around here, we keep the wrong kind of people out." Jordan felt his blood boil. He knew exactly what the man meant by wrong kind. He tore across the lawn, shouting, "That's my wife you're pointing that gun at! Put it down before you do something you regret." 2 more of the fake officers swaggered up behind Carl Benson, puffed out in their cheap tactical vests. They flanked him awkwardly, like backup dancers waiting for cues they didn't understand. Selena still didn't move. Her chest rose and fell, slow, controlled. Jordan noticed the faintest twitch of her right hand, her signal. She was ready. Carl puffed up, his voice shaking but loud enough for the whole street. "We're the HOA police. Higher than city cops here. We make the rules. We keep this place safe from outsiders like you." Selena's lips curved into the smallest smirk. She tilted her head, her tone low and steady. "Sir, I'll ask you one last time. Lower your weapon, for your own safety." His laugh was harsh and ugly. Sweat poured down his forehead. "You threatening me? Think you can intimidate me in my own neighborhood? Not a chance. Around here, you do as we say." Selena's eyes narrowed, her weight shifting the slightest bit, her voice cut sharper now. "This is not your neighborhood, and you have no idea who you're pointing that gun at." Jordan's fists clenched. He was just about to rush forward when it happened, a blur of motion too quick to follow. 1 second, the pistol was in Carl's hand. The next, it clattered onto the pavement, and before he could gasp, Selena had him slammed face first on the asphalt, his arm twisted behind him in a lock so precise it could have been taught in a NATO manual. She leaned down, her voice a whisper like steel. Now you understand who doesn't belong. His eyes went wide with terror, his arrogance gone in an instant. Blue and red lights painted the cul-de-sac within minutes. 2 police cruisers rolled up, engines humming low, and officers stepped out, hands resting casually on their holsters. The call had already gone out from a neighbor who saw the commotion on their porch cameras. Someone had dialed 911 the moment a gun was pointed at Selena's face. The HOA goons erupted in protest the second they saw them. "She assaulted him," one shouted, pointing at Selena like a child who just lost a game. "She resisted HOA authority," another barked. Carl, still red-faced on the ground, whined, "She attacked me while I was performing my duty." Selena stood tall, calm as ever, her hands loose at her sides. She hadn't even broken a sweat. Jordan hurried to her, his pulse still thundering, but she looked as composed as if she were standing in a grocery line. One of the real officers scanned the scene, then fixed his gaze on Selena. His posture shifted. He walked closer, pulled out his notepad, and said evenly, "Ma'am, can I see some identification?" Selena reached into her pocket, produced her wallet, and handed it over. The officer flipped it open, and whatever he read made his brows rise before he nodded once, sharp and respectful. He returned it to her carefully, then turned toward the HOA enforcers. "She's good to go," he said firmly. "You boys better head home." The street went silent. The fake officer's jaws dropped. "But she attacked him! She's dangerous!" one protested. "You're just going to let her go?" "She disarmed an officer," another added, as if that proved their point. The officer's voice hardened. "Let's get one thing straight. You're not law enforcement. You don't have the right to detain residents, let alone point weapons at them. If I get another call like this, you'll be the ones in handcuffs." The HOA men froze, their confidence draining as quick as the color in their faces. And that's when Margaret Sloan came marching down the street, arriving just in time to see the disaster. She stormed up in her khaki vest covered with pins, clutching her clipboard like it was the nuclear codes. "What happened here?" Margaret demanded, her voice shrill. "Why is my officer hurt? This is an outrage. That woman is a threat to community safety." Jordan stepped forward, unable to help himself. "That woman," he shot back, pointing to Selena, "is my wife, and your officer put a gun in her face for going on a jog. If anyone here is a threat, it's your little cosplay patrol." Selena finally broke her silence. Her voice was calm but sharp enough to cut through the chaos. "I'm pressing charges," she said, locking eyes with the police officer nearest her. "That man pointed a loaded weapon at me in broad daylight for jogging. That is attempted assault with a firearm. And if these other two stood by and supported it, they're accomplices. Arrest them." The HOA patrol froze. Their swagger evaporated, fear flickering across their faces. One of them stammered, We were just following orders." Another blurted, "It wasn't our idea. Margaret told us it was fine. She said we had authority." Jordan felt his chest tighten as every head in the crowd swiveled toward Margaret Sloan. Clipboard clutched to her chest. She looked like a queen stripped of her crown. The lead officer raised an eyebrow. "Is that true? You hired these men? Authorized them to impersonate law enforcement?" Margaret sputtered. "Aye, it's community security, volunteers, nothing more." But the patrol wasn't letting her wriggle free. Carl, still nursing his twisted arm, hissed through gritted teeth. "Don't you dare leave us hanging, Margaret. You said we were the HOA police. You gave the badges, the rules, the guns. You said it was legal." Neighbors gasped. Phones were raised higher, recording every second. The officer stepped forward, voice like iron. "Ma'am, impersonating police and authorizing armed patrols without jurisdiction is a criminal offense. Turn around and place your hands behind your back." Margaret's face drained of color. "You can't do this. I'm the HOA president." Jordan smirked, stepping closer to Selena. "Not anymore." The clink of handcuffs echoed as Margaret's wrists were bound. The HOA enforcers were cuffed too, their bravado reduced to panicked mutters as they were led toward the cruisers. The crowd murmured, half in shock, half in satisfaction. For the first time, Jordan saw his neighbors smiling without fear. Selena adjusted her sleeve, calm as ever. She turned to Jordan and murmured, "That's one problem solved." Margaret's clipboard empire crumbled the moment the cuffs clicked. Once her officers realized they were facing real charges, impersonating law enforcement, assault with a deadly weapon, and fraud, they all turned on her, admitting she told them the HOA made them higher than city cops. The evidence was overwhelming. Fake badges, equipment orders, even a law enforcement manual Margaret had written herself. Carl got 8 years total for pointing a gun at Selena. His two sidekicks walked away with probation, fines, and records that ruined their futures. Margaret herself was sentenced to 4 years for conspiracy and impersonation, plus restitution for every bogus fine she'd collected. Ridgewood Park changed overnight. Kids biked freely again. Porch lights glowed without light pollution fines, and when Selena jogged, neighbors waved with gratitude, not fear. Margaret went from self-proclaimed queen of the cul-de-sac to inmate number 47219. Her men faded into probation programs. The HOA dissolved. All bylaws voided. All accounts frozen. For the first time, Ridgewood Park finally felt like a community again. If you believe racists hiding behind fake authority should always be exposed and held accountable, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc, because justice doesn't end with an arrest, it begins with the truth.